welcome to the July 11th, 2023 regular council meeting that I will call to order at 6 o'clock. Thanks as always for our guests being here. This is probably one of the toughest opening statements we have talked about at this table. And on July 1st, 2023, as Canada's Day celebrations were taking place, or about to take place, our region received a tornado warning weather alert in the early afternoon. While our community watched golf ball size and bigger hail spray down in our yards, our neighbors to the south and west were under siege by an E4 tornado that was ravaging homes, property, and anything in its path. Some homes and properties suffered complete devastation, and others experienced significant damage. Thankfully, every person was found safe. Those affected have had their lives changed forever. And your community and Albertans from across our province stand with you as the daunting task of cleanup is ongoing and as rebuilding begins. There are many ways to support those affected in days and months ahead, and so many people have already been helping since July 1st. We will each do what we can in the hopes of a positive recovery. Our thoughts are with each and every person who experienced this overwhelming tornado and extreme weather event. And with that, I'll ask for an adoption of the agenda, a motion, and I don't believe we have anything to add. All right, as presented then.
I move that council accept the agenda as presented.
Any questions or comments? Call the vote, all in favor? That's carried. So we're always delighted to welcome Staff Sergeant Steve Brown, our detachment commander in Didsbury. This time for the fourth quarter report, which actually ended on March 31st, 2023. And we were just mentioning how catching up and the overwhelming agenda items that are coming and getting everybody coordinated, certainly mitigating factors, but we thank you, Steve, for always being, Staff Sergeant Brown, for always being available to present these reports and answer questions. And we also have the multi-year financial plan on our agenda tonight that we're going to just touch on. And that's become, I think it's from a 14-page document to a 24 or 25-page document, so there's lots of good information in that and maybe some questions about it. So welcome, Steve, and go ahead.
Thank you. So we'll start off with the fourth quarter report, but I will state that it ended June, so you're not off the regular fiscal year. It's, we go till June for that quarter. But so for our priorities was for this past fiscal year was serious investigations. During the Q4 seemed to be our busiest quarter of the year. We recorded 13 serious investigations within the town that all resulted in charges. The first one was assault causing bodily harm on January 6th. One adult was charged, as well as mischief under $5,000. Second investigation resulted in charges on January 7th for assault with a weapon. Again, on January 7th, one adult was charged with sexual assault. January 20th, one male adult was charged with possession of stolen property, break and enter tools, and possession of methamphetamine. Also on January 20th, another adult was charged with 2 counts of unsafe storage of a firearm. January 21st, we laid charges for break and enter to a business and theft of a car. Again, on January 21st, another adult was charged with uttering threats, 2 charges, possession of weapons for dangerous purpose, mischief times 2, under $5,000. Again, on January 24th, another adult was charged with, again, mischief under $5,000. February 15th, we charged one youth with assault, uttering threats, resisting arrest, and failure to comply with release order conditions, which they were currently out on. February 18th, we charged one adult for domestic violence assault. Again, February 20th, another adult was charged with assault. March 13th, we charged another adult with possession of stolen property less than $5,000, times 2 for mountain bikes and power tools, and theft of a motor vehicle. And that particular investigation started in Didsbury and ended up in Crossfield. When we took, actually that's correction, they were arrested in Airdrie and then transported back to Didsbury. After a fairly lengthy investigation on that one. And finally, on March 27th, we charged one adult for mischief over $5,000. So again, it was a significantly busier quarter for us. For priority, our second priority, which is intelligence-led drug enforcement. During this reporting period, Didsbury members arrested 22 offenders through targeted patrols and release order compliance checks. During the arrest of 2 prolific property offenders in March, officers seized the following controlled substances, which resulted in possession for the purpose of trafficking charges. They were 29.4 grams of fentanyl, 40.6 grams of methamphetamine, just over 13 grams of cocaine, and just about 10 grams of crack cocaine. So again, to add to that, those are not individuals who resided within the town, but individuals that were residing within the city of Calgary and transporting that product into our area. And finally, for the third priority for Didsbury was visibility and traffic enforcement. And during that reporting period, 23 motorists were charged for moving and non-moving driving offenses within the town. And we also issued one immediate roadside suspension for alcohol consumption. So. Statistically, when I'm speaking, overall change from 2022 to 2023, we've had roughly about a 35% increase in persons crimes. Again, that's consistent with what we've seen over the past years, so that's nothing that surprises me. We've had a 15% decrease in total property crime. Again, that's not as much of a decrease as we saw the previous year, but again, still a decrease in property offenses. And again, that's through our habitual offender management programs that we engage in the community. The 32% increase in other criminal code specifically or directly relates to failure to comply and breach investigations. And again, that's related to habitual offender management, bail order compliance, and basically charging those individuals who are not complying with their court order release documents. And that's where you see the increase in charges from the previous year. We've seen a decrease in motor vehicle collisions and injury-related collisions, which was a positive thing to see this year. Again, I don't want to directly relate it to our traffic enforcement initiatives, but I believe, again, when that message is out there for whether it's speed infractions or alcohol consumptions while driving, I think any efforts on enforcement with regarding those helps contribute to decrease in overall motor vehicle collisions. And that's Q4 in a very brief nutshell.
Thank you for that. Are there questions on the Q4 report?
questions, but I can't find it here at the moment, but I was reading the report that was submitted. The year-over-year decreases from the end of 2021 till 2022. And if these numbers are correct, I think that it's really important that we reflect these numbers. I think it's good for the community to know. And I did find it here.
Probably page 5, I believe.
Yeah. So at the end of 2022 versus the end of 2021, our criminal code offenses decreased by 26%. Assaults were down 47%, property crime down 38%, theft under 5,000 down 43%, and property damage down 34%. I think this is noteworthy, and I think our community is really lucky to have the group that we have in our detachment working as hard as they do to bring those results. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good observations, for sure. Yes, and we always, the minister, Mr. Chandler, will correct himself, but I can say it. Thanks for always catching the bad guys. And that's important that we have such vigilant attention and care from our SAP attachment. And I know that you commonly say, yes, the numbers are there and the charges are there for drugs and violence and whatever, but you're identifying and catching them. And that's the good news, is that it's being stopped and identified and stopped to take to court. And hopefully our court system will deal with that appropriately. So thank you for that. Steve, anything else anyone would like to add?
Fourth quarter or about the report?
About the fourth quarter, or about the whole report that was submitted. Sure, that's fine. Not the multi-year yet. Who's going to do the multi-year rate?
Okay, I'll wait for that.
Okay. Okay, no more questions about the report. We'll move on to the multi-year financial plan.
So there's let's turn that back on. There's not much of a difference from my perspective from the plan that I presented last year. It's a multi-year financial plan, but I seem to be presenting it every year with different changes. But I think if you've all had a chance to see it, read through it again, specifically speaking from a Didsbury perspective, again, I'm tabling the school resource officer position for 24-25. Again, that's a position that I've had several discussions regarding its importance in the communities. And again, it's an additional resource for Didsbury, but again, I believe that's somewhere that we're falling short is our engagement with school youth. And I think we can do a better job by getting a person, police officer dedicated for specifically directly engaging with the youth at schools in the Didsbury detachment area. You'll also see that there's a public service position that I've had preliminary discussions with the town management, and I believe that's scheduled, or I've inputted for 26-27, and that's in relation to converting over the existing municipal employee position that's granted under the municipal policing agreement between Didsbury and the province to provide that municipal employee to provide additional administrative support within the detachment. And we've had preliminary discussions to convert that over to a public service to reduce the stress of the town providing an employee and managing the employee while that employee works within the confines of Didsbury detachment, which becomes challenging at times. And we have found that a consistent category of employee is much more efficient way to do business. But we're just I guess investigating and learning some different ways on how to do that. efficiently, and one of those ways is to change the category of the employee to a public service employee, which falls under the public service director under Canada. So those are two things that I have input from a local perspective. The other cost increases are pretty much detailed pretty specifically throughout the report with regards to upgrades and equipment, services and expectations based on a number of inquiries across the country with regards to how we do business, specifically in the rural areas. So, are there any questions that you have specifically in relation to the multi-year?
There's a mark, and then
Well, I think he did say.
go, oh, you,
Might be the same question.
It might be. So I know that you didn't necessarily write all of the legalese in here, but being that we're the only municipality that is signing this, when it talks about the municipality being responsible for 100% of the costs for maintaining these accommodations and providing, and also that it's a municipal responsibility for the commissioner and also for the guarding costs and the overtime. I don't, and I see a 70% in there. I see some pooled costs to municipalities under 5,000 that have huge numbers, which are really scary because I don't know what our portion of that is. But the concern that I have is that I don't know if this is still a proportion, but it's always been 5 employees that are under the provincial contract and 4 of ours, which would give us 44% of costs. I don't see that reflected in here. So when it says the municipality, meaning that we're the only one that's signing this, and it says we're responsible for 100% of these costs, that would make me reluctant to sign this contract. Also, the big costs that I'm looking at, millions and millions for equipment and vehicles over time. It's just that I would like to have more specifics about what this is really going to cost us. We have numbers, but I don't know what they mean to us. So
Sure.
that would be my first question, and I'll leave it to you.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
But it specifically is geared around the ratio of the 4 regular members that are provided and the 1 municipal employee that's provided at the detachment. So any costing that's related to that is only centered towards those 5 resources that's provided. The cost sharing is 70-30 when we're under 5,000 or under 15,000. And then the pooling of resources is all those municipalities together. So that's not just Didsbury, but with regards to the purchasing of new equipment, training, primarily equipment and upgrading, new purchases, those are all pooled resources together. It's not just the burden of one particular detachment that is responsible for that. In terms of guarding, the municipality doesn't pay for 100% of the guarding. So it's all based on where the prisoner is brought in from. So if it's an arrest, for instance, in a rural, say Cremona, those costs are charged to our provincial collator, not to the municipal collator. Obviously, there's some sharing or pooling of costing with relation to the Corps Commissioners, but in relation to actual guarding at the detachment, it's all based on where the location of the arrest occurs. And wherever that occurs, that's where the cost is directed towards. The maintenance of the building is, because it's a municipal building, there is cost sharing included in that as well. We just are going through that currently based on the last proposal that I put before council with regards to the upgrades. That's a cost sharing initiative. That's not 100% on the town of Didsbury. There's a split between the province and us. So does that answer your question?
If I may, just one thing on page 10 of your presentation, 24 hours, it says at no cost to Canada. So I'm assuming then we're talking about 100% municipality, nil cost to Canada. I'm assuming it's the province then that is picking up that 70%.
Province, yes.
Okay, thanks for that. Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. My question had to do with the school resource officer, and I think that Cesar Brown kind of answered it, but it's also about the public service employee, and it seems to me that the regular member you're talking about for the school resource officer is optional. That's something that we can choose to go forward with or not. Whereas the other one, the public service employee, it looks to me like that looks like it is a necessity based on what's going on technologically with different systems that are being implemented. Would that be accurate?
A little bit. So where it's required is the position itself. So the existing administrative support position is written into the municipal policing agreement. Under that agreement, it's for the town to pay for a municipal employee who is basically a town employee recruited by the town to work within our confines. What we've found is because of the different reporting structures between the town and the RCMP specifically, there becomes gray area about where's the line of reporting. So we are looking or exploring at converting that existing municipal employee position to a public service position. And then the costing related to that, would it be advantageous for the town to engage with paying for a public, or contributing to a public service employee rather than a municipal employee? The position is needed, absolutely 100%. But again, it's basically, which is why I put it off to 27, because of the conversations need to be had. Is it fiscally doable for the town to engage in that conversion of employee category? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I also want to just, we discussed this and dealt with it when we came to the agreement that we are obligated to have a municipal employee, and so the transition is fair. The other part of that is we also said, asked the question if we have to sign this agreement, and yes, we do. And we might be able to write a letter to voice our concerns or opinions about it, but when you're in NPSA, this is a mandatory document to have signed, and everybody signs them. So it doesn't mean we have to like them. We can voice our concerns to K Division and through our referencing the powers that be in RCMP. That might help everybody a little bit too. If there's any follow-up on this agreement, it can, Steve certainly be a messenger in some capacity, but our message needs to get from our council to the people that bring this down through the system. So.
Yeah, I guess the biggest voice or ability to do that is through AUMA in the fall.
Yeah, that's helpful too.
But really the only, I guess, conversation piece that we have any action on would be the extra resources that I've indicated within the report.
Other questions? I think, as I mentioned, it's a bigger document. I think it's, what's impressive to me is all the responses that the RCMP are having to the Mass Casualty Commission recommendations, the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls inquiry, the discovery of unmarked graves. Those are actually in here for us to sign on to, and that they're at the forefront of our society right now, and important documents, important statements. And I mean, there's so much more outlined too. When you read it, it's not, it's like there's 14 more pages. So I'm not going to cite everything, but I was impressed with that part of it. The charts, the financial charts are certainly thorough and easy to understand. I do have a question for Amanda, based on, like, it's a $10,000 increase. And is that going to have any impact on the budget going forward this year? Or are we settled in with the budget that we've approved? We've got the number of 153, 162, that's what we based. I looked through our budget and I couldn't find that number specifically, so.
For the
Per member.
contract cost, are you speaking?
Yeah, like in our expenses on the protective services RCMP side.
Yeah,
We have reflected that 153.
yeah. I think we're okay because we run on a different calendar year and we were able to accrue some of those costs in last year's, in our fiscal 2022. So in our first quarter of 2024, we would adjust for any differences there.
But we're good based on what we approved this year.
Yeah, from what I've reviewed so far.
All right. I have one other question, Steve. It's on page 37. Let me see what page it is on the document. Page 23 of the document. And it just says insert table here, and I'm just wondering if the table is there, or if there's something, before we sign it, that whatever is should be there, should be there.
Yeah, so in the color coding, that's for division to insert additional numbers if any are required. So I get direction from division, okay, this is what's required. They color code it because it makes it easier for us. I insert my bit, they insert their bit once it's done. So because it's a second draft, if there are any revisions that the town would like to see, this would be the time to make note of them, and then I can resubmit them back to division with these requested changes. So that's why you see, it's not the final draft. The final draft will come back once they hear if there are any further changes to be made.
Okay, so but the changes you're talking about, so I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. This is a federal document that everybody that's in NPSA signs.
100%.
So anything specific to Didsbury, we can have.
You can absolutely.
Anything on the federal level,
It's,
we're going to have to get a whole bunch of advocacy going for that.
yes, ma'am.
So I just want everybody to be clear that we'll shut down those.
If anybody thinks that we're not going to get a new pistol, they're very drastically mistaken. Yeah, I mean, Amanda and I had a meeting, like I mentioned earlier, with division, and again, reiterating the shock value of the cost increase, specifically this year over previous years. And again, it just seems to be that timeline where a lot of things came to a head at this current point that need to be addressed now, as opposed to being put off for additional years. And again, whether that's through public accountability or just the aging nature of our equipment, which needs to be replaced. It just unfortunately has come to a point where it needs to be done now, as opposed to later.
And the changing criminal approach and what your response is.
Well, we all know policing is no longer a cheap venture, so no.
And I think it's important it comes every year. Like we say it's a 5-year plan, but I think this discussion is important every year for everybody to look at this. It is a working document that there's changes all the time going on. So appreciate you presenting that here. And if there's no other questions, I believe we have.
Well, I mean, I'll just add to it just because of the nature of how it's worded, but with regards to the inquiry, specifically the mass casualty commission, I guess, with regards to the Nova Scotia events. A lot of those recommendations have been engaged already in Alberta, and we employ a lot of that equipment over the last couple of years. So some of the things are already in place. The transition to a more efficient hard body armor is something that they're still looking at. That's the costing of that has not come out yet. Currently, we wear some very heavy gear at times, so they're looking at a more lighter, safer version than the existing one that we have. I think our radio equipment is probably some of the best in the country right now. That's deployed in Alberta. So there's a lot of things that we have already in existence that they've already put out. But again, because it affects us as a national force, these things have to come out within the reports. So.
Sadly, we have those sorts of tragedies happen in world events, and thankfully we have our safety responding to them and responding to the enhanced service because of it and protection. So again, thank you, Staff Sergeant. And I believe we have a motion.
Remember, I'll move that council thanks Staff Sergeant Brown for presentation of the Didsbury RCMP attachment fourth quarter report for January 1 to March 31, 2023, and the multi-year financial plan and accepting of information.
And we have a plan later on our agenda for discussion. So any other comments? We'll call the vote with a special thanks to Staff Sergeant Brown. Enjoy your summer as well. All in favor? That's carried. And thank you for being here. We'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks very much.
All right. The minutes of June 27, 2023 regular council meeting. Comments or questions? Motion? I like it as amended, actually. Because page, I'm going to find it. Motion 337-23. I didn't make that motion. Councilor Windsor did. What did you have your hand up?
Well, not yet. I was waiting for the motion.
Well, I wanted it amended.
Okay. Yeah.
So I know there was quite a bit of back and forth and kerfuffle now. So it was Councilor Windsor that made that motion.
So I move the council adopt the June 27, 2023 regular council meeting minutes as amended.
Any other discussion?
Did you get that?
You captured that, yeah? Okay. I'll call the vote. All in favor as amended. Thanks, everyone. So at this time, I will go to my public hearing document, and I will adjourn or recess the council meeting and call the public hearing to order at 6:33 p.m. And this public hearing is held in accordance with Section 230 of the Municipal Government Act. If not already, and I know council certainly is supposed to have their phones put away, but for some reason we want your cell phones turned off as well. I guess that's just good meeting etiquette. And all questions be made through the chair when called upon. Everyone will be have the opportunity to be heard if you'd like to speak, and it will be done in an orderly fashion. Each presenter, when called upon, will take the place at the presenter's table, where Tracy is right now, and state and spell their name for the record. We ask all presenters to keep their comments brief and do not repeat points that have already been made. The purpose of this hearing is for council to consider all relevant information that they require in making their decisions in this matter. So the purpose of the hearing is to consider the partial removal of municipal reserve designation. And administration is seeking approval from council to remove the MR designation of a small portion of a larger lot. The proposed area is an odd-shaped grassy area, and the removal of the designation would not negatively impact the remainder of the parcel. That's a great description, odd-shaped grassy area. So the picture is up there. It's a blue-gray odd-shaped grassy area. So the request was first considered at the council meeting on June 27th, 2023, and and everything forward will be referenced as 2023, because I'm not going to keep saying it. And we set the public hearing for today, July 11th, I'm not going to say it. The public hearing was posted on the Town of Didsbury website and advertised in the Albertan newspaper, and the responses were received. Any responses received were included in the agenda package for council's consideration. So we will have, to start, we have Town of Didsbury Administration. Tracy is going to introduce and provide an overview. The applicant will have the opportunity to speak. Council will have the opportunity to ask questions. Then we go back to Town of Didsbury Administration. The public can participate next. Again, council, more questions if they have them. The applicant, then administration, and then we end up with final call for council questions. So with that, Tracy, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. So when a municipality is seeking to remove the designation of municipal reserve on a property, it is required to hold a public hearing. So therefore, we went to council and presented it earlier and asked council to set a public hearing date, and so today is the date that was set. And as indicated, it was circulated to adjacent landowners and relevant government agencies, and I received no phone calls or mail or emails of any concern regarding this proposal, so we're moving ahead looking for support from council to remove the designation of this small area. So as you can see on the map that's shown on the screen, it's just a small area between a longer rectangular parcel to the north and then the museum property to the south. So it's an area where if it was to be managed with the balance of with the larger parcel, you'd have to come in and mow, turn around and come back out. So it's an area that is, if removed, is not taking away from any of the amenities of the municipal reserve land on the balance of the property. So we're moving forward and from administration's perspective and just seeking council's approval for the removal of the designation for this small area. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant want to speak to this at this point, or your word? Do we know if the applicant would like to speak? Did you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. I don't see anybody moving towards the mic, so I'll take that as a no. Does council have any questions? Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I think the whole purpose of this is to sell this land or to provide it for ownership from someone other than the town. And I'm wondering if this has been, if passing this and removing this designation makes it available for sale if the other adjacent property owners have been approached with regard to ownership of this small piece, like the museum and the landowner to the east.
Does anyone have an answer for that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. No, because there's no one that's expressed it. We were approached because of the interest in this little piece proposal that we thought would made sense. We would entertain anyone else that was interested in some of that. No other property owners have shown any interest in that. So this kind of evolved from a conversation just based on some individual interest in it with a proposal that we thought made sense to administration.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm just wondering, okay, so we removed the designation, excuse me, does that now become absorbed into the parcel directly to the left? And then that then becomes for sale, the entire parcel? Or you're just trying to sell that one little chunk of land? I'm trying to understand where that little piece of land goes now that it has been removed. Is it absorbed with the rest of the land around it? Or is it standalone?
You answer that, or?
Yeah, I can speak to that. And then Tracy can add anything further to it. But no, this would just be an image is a little bit off, but that view goes all the way up to that museum piece there. It would just kind of sort of square off that open green space, and we would then, with the landowner of the narrow strip there, we would make a deal with them to have them, and they would consolidate that into their lot.
So they would extend their lot down to encompass that little chunk, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
If not, where would that piece of land go? Would it go to that large portion to the left? Would that be part of that?
That's where it's currently part of. So it's this little kind of notch that comes out of that larger green space.
Okay.
I would like to remind council questions are directed through the chair. Conversations aren't ongoing back and forth.
Okay, through the chair. I don't know, I guess the party that owns the land above that little chunk, they either agree to buy it, or then what do we do with it?
Can we just have an overview of what's, to clarify this again? So maybe Tracy wants to just do an overview of what the proposal is, and then that will help clarify for Councillor Bazard. Go ahead, Tracy.
Thank you, through the chair. So the overview is this portion of land is not intended to continue to be used as a municipal reserve piece of land, and with the intent of it being subdivided out. So currently it's all one larger parcel, including this little sliver that we have highlighted here on the screen. So in order for it to be removed and sold, we need first to remove the municipal reserve designation, because municipal reserve is owned by a municipality and not a private landowner. So once the municipal reserve designation has been removed, and only for this small sliver, the rest of the land will remain as municipal reserve, then we need to go through the subdivision process. So the subdivision process would provide a subdivision sketch showing this little piece with the intent to consolidate it with the adjacent parcel to the north. Through that process, once again, all adjacent landowners and relevant government agencies will be circulated. So if there is any concerns or questions, or they don't understand the process, they have another opportunity to gain further clarity on the process. And then it will be presented to the Municipal Planning Commission, and if approved, there would be some conditions that they would have to meet. And then once the conditions are satisfied, it would go to land titles, and then land titles will map this small area out of the larger parcel beside it, and it would become consolidated with that small narrow parcel to the north. So that small narrow parcel would come down, and then there'd be that little angle, and then that parcel will come down, and its property line would meet the museum's property line. So that's the whole process. In order for somebody as a private landowner to own a piece of it, we need to remove the municipal reserve designation, and prior to that happening, we did need to have this public hearing to ensure that the public understood what we're going through in this process.
Okay, and it's only to remove the municipal reserve designation. There's more steps to this
Yes.
that might not be relative to any questions, so keep your questions about the municipal reserve being removed, because then there'll be another meeting to talk about the subdivision on our agenda. So do you have any further questions because of that, Councillor Bazard?
Through the chair, I'm not sure if I'm totally clear. I'm thinking, so that piece of land to the north, is that owned by somebody right now and occupied? All right, so by removing this and absorbing this little chunk on that effectively extends their property, right? So if that's the case, do they have to pay for it, or is it just absorbed and then it goes into the tax base as a larger piece of land which should be taxed?
Okay, we're just dealing with removing the NMR right now. And all those questions, once,
That's a fair question, whether it's today or tomorrow.
so removing the municipal reserve to become an odd-shaped piece of land there. So we can approve removing the municipal reserve, at which point then the subdivision process takes place.
so you don't want to answer my question.
Well, I'm not sure, what is your question?
My question was, if that landowner is going to extend their property by this chunk of land, is it just awarded to them and then they are charged relative tax to the addition to the property, or do they pay for that extra piece of land?
Okay, so I'd like to suggest that we did send this back to our CEO to deal with 3 meetings ago. And now that's why the MR is here. Ethan, is there someone that would like to answer that specific question? Then we can move on to the next question.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Just to again clarify, this was something that council reviewed and considered and then approved doing this process in principle and approved, yes, and that landowner would purchase that little piece that would be part of that amalgamation.
So they agreed to do that, obviously. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, so can we have questions relative to the municipal reserve? Councilor McCoy.
It's just really a question, why the hexagonish kind of shape? Like, why would you square it off at the end of the same property, even just for mowing purposes?
That's the chair, I think, as
Through
well.
the chair, sorry.
Ethan or Tracy, you want Tracy to answer that?
This is how it was presented. This was the request that was presented, so that's what we're showing and proposing to council for the removal.
And
If that went any further, that it wouldn't,
it's the one that made the most sense to administration because of the way that, again, it makes a more of a, it takes out the odd shape of the grassy area, so it makes it kind of a smoother.
But if you draw a line to make it a square box, like, forget going right across that property. No,
that's not
I'm saying make it
relative,
smaller.
it's not relative to this piece of property.
Well, it
if-
is, because I was just asking,
Well,
why
if-
is that shape?
Well, this MR, if, so then we need a different public hearing to change the municipal reserve area, is what would happen. So this was presented to us, this was presented to us, and that's why it's here, the public hearing. We set the public hearing based on this shape. So if we need a different shape, then we have to start this process over. And that wasn't brought up at the time it was presented to council to set the public hearing. So we have presentations here right now, and the public hearing, and any other questions about the municipal reserve itself as it is. And when we deal with the motion later, if someone wants to make a motion to change that area, which wasn't requested by the owner or the potential owner, and we have a bigger can of worms, I guess, is what we call that. So it doesn't mean it can't be done. It means right now we're dealing with this piece to remove this piece of property because that was what was advertised that we were dealing with tonight. Are there any other questions about this municipal reserve? Odd-shaped grassy area. Okay, so with that, Tracy, do you have anything to add?
To the chair, I have nothing further, thank you.
Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to ask a question, speak to this piece of municipal reserve? All right, thank you. Council? And because Tracy's going to think of something in a minute, I'll just give council one last opportunity to ask questions about this piece of municipal reserve. All right, then what I will do is close this public hearing at 6:49 and move back into our regular council meeting. So we'll go to item 6, council reports. I'll speak to my mic and I'll remind everybody to speak into their mic on council reports. And I don't know who I'll start with. Councillor McCoy, you have a question?
I was going to call a motion to accept the council reports.
But we have verbal reports too.
Oh,
Yeah,
my apologies.
that's okay. Okay, Councillor Bazak, do you want to start?
Your council report?
Thank you, Mayor. My report will come in September because my next meeting is tomorrow morning with the Water Commission, so I have nothing on my schedule other than some social events that I went to, which I'm sure someone else will comment on.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome to comment on them, of course, but you don't have to. Deputy Mayor?
So between our last meeting and this meeting, I've had no committee meetings. However, one of the events that I attended was the reading at the museum on Saturday, July 1st, with Councillor Moore and Councillor Windsor, and we were actively serving cake and coffee and tea to a very robust crowd. I think the numbers probably surprisingly overwhelmed what was expected to be there, so it was an exceptional turnout. And right during the reading is when the alerts went off, and we had to relocate all the citizens that were there enjoying the wonderful storytelling into the basement. Fortunately, the tornado didn't come that close, but it was a good day, and I believe that people stayed after so that they could continue the story. So a really resilient excuse me, crowd there. And that's the only event that I attended.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. I had one committee meeting on July 5th, the policy and governance, and that is coming up for discussion later on in the meeting, so I'll hold my comments until then.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I would like to thank Mayor Hunter for her reports on CAPE and the part 2 of the SCM. Both were very comprehensive, and I appreciate that. My next event is on July 20th with RDR Mug, where we will be touring the Red Deer Water Treatment Facility and having a cooperative meeting with the Red Deer Water Alliance, who is the recognized representative for the Red Deer River watershed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
On June 26th, along with Mayor Hunter and trying to think of any other, certainly lots of town staff, we had a very good gathering at the Caddy Shack with lots of amazing hors d'oeuvres and some very enthusiastic people who have participated with the movie group. And interesting to find out that Lindsay, formerly Poffin Rock Eats, is a stunt double in movies and so accomplished. So that's a new aspect of her that I didn't know, and another very talented person in our community. On, of course, the museum, we had lots of excitement for our guests there, and actually as we were going downstairs you could see the tornadoes sort of dropping down between here and Carstairs out the front doors of the museum. On July 6th, Mountain View Seniors Housing Board went through the budget assumptions. They're doing a very careful costing and lots of lobbying because we're being put in a terrible position by things not keeping up with inflation and additional costs being added, and our insurance going up 50% in 2 years. Things like that are putting incredible pressures, and then the province talks about us building more units. Well, why would we do that when they withdraw their support after we've done what they asked us to do? So we have a lot more work to do, but we are making progress, and it is incremental, but it's really important. And we're finding lots of ways to save money and to provide the services to the level and better than we've ever done before. So I'm really pleased with how that's going. The leadership, the new CAO is doing an amazing job. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Committee meetings have been canceled, so I didn't have any.
Thank you for that. We'll see when I was looking for that phone thing, but I had it up, let's go. So, yes, I sat in with Mountview Seniors Housing on Thursday as well, and I had to leave at 3, but it was a good meeting. And lots of good information from the insurance presenter. Not good information, but it was much needed. The golf course event was amazing again, and of course, Brock Scredding is always happy to come out and talk to the community, and I'm sorry I've lost Marlo's last name, but with the provincial government, the film advocacy, and she was here for us. You have her last name?
Lowen?
Lowen. Yeah, she's great.
Oh, Lowen, sorry.
So they,
T-O-E.
okay, Marlo Taves.
T.
So, yeah, she can pronounce, that's how I'll pronounce it, just for today. If she can pronounce it different, she'll have to be watching this and correct me. And it's always, they took lots of good comments, they took some bad ones, and we always want to make our community better with the film industry and for our business people who enjoy the company of the film industry downtown, so they were very open to all that feedback. And I don't know if that's all I'll say in that. It was great though, and we're always happy for those two to come. I went to the Minister Dreeshen's, the Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors on Sunday at the BMO Center. It was a wonderful event, lots of good discussion opportunities to meet many ministers and talk to them there. So put on a really good presentation, and thank Minister Dreeshen for that opportunity to sit in the room with 700 people and listen to the Premier also spoke and stuck around for some opportunities to speak with her as well. So that's what I've been up to, some other meetings, just policy governance meetings that are boring for everybody to listen about because we talk about them later. And that's all I have right now. So I will have the motion now to, unless there's questions of anyone here. Oh, I do want to mention the FCM report. Does everybody get that in their email today? The FCM did a report on the success of the convention, so I went to all that work and then they did one themselves.
It made it so much easier for you.
Well, it would have had that personal touch. So, and I was especially pleased with that coalition's report because it was really, I thought, oh, that's a great one to add in there. But the FCM, I'll forward that to everybody because it's just another good document that they've created on the event. So I will have a motion then. Councillor McCoy, will you want to make that? To accept the report?
I'll move to accept council reports for July 11th, 2023 as information.
All right, I will call a vote. All in favor? It's carried. Then we have the Chief Administrative Officer's report for July 11th. What's going on over the past while and some quarterly reports and updates for us. I'm going to start with conversation. Do you have anything to add to that first, Ethan, or?
I do have a small verbal component. Maybe I'll speak to that first. There's been some interest in the community about a potential tower. There's been some buzz because there has been a company exploring potentially putting a tower in town. And so there has been a variety of information information pieces out there about that. There's been some engagement done by the applicant. So I just wanted to clarify a little bit about the upcoming process. So we're not the decision maker on the telecommunications tower. We don't have that jurisdiction or authority. That's fully the purview of the federal government. However, as part of their application process that they make to the federal government for approval to put a tower anywhere, is they must consult with the residents of a community and then ultimately consult with the town organization of a community. And so that will be coming where they consult to basically reach out, they gather input from the residents, and then they put together the information, then they'll come to council. And again, not for your approval, but simply what's called a letter of concurrence. And it's just whether or not you concur with their application that's going to the federal government. Now, the federal government has sole jurisdiction to decide yay or nay on that application, regardless of what the town says or regardless of what the residents say as part of that engagement. But that process will be forthcoming in September when the applicant is ready to come and ask for their letter of concurrence. So just to clarify that, because there has been some kind of misunderstanding and incorrect information out there where about the town and this tower. It's not a town tower, it's not a town project at all. In fact, we're not the ones that even will make the decision on it. So just to clarify that process.
Thanks for that. Any questions on the report? Councillor Windsor, Deputy Mayor, next.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. On page 71 of our agenda, item 5, with regard to the 20th Street Mill and overlay, first of all, it looks wonderful. And there's many comments about how wonderful it looks. But there's mention here about 19th Avenue, and I see that that is not done at this point. And I wonder if we could have an update as to what is being done prior to that being done, and what the timeline might be for the work on it.
Yes, I actually a few of us gave Ethan a heads up. That will probably be a question here tonight. So.
Good evening. Thank you for the question. Through the chair. So 19th Avenue. So the work on 20th Street came to our sort of scheduled, and we got notified that it was going to be start on the last Friday. We hadn't quite received the pricing to make the determination about 19th yet, and even if we did have the pricing sort of at the same time, we didn't have enough time to consult with the businesses. So what we did is we just asked the contractor to schedule a second return. So what they'll do is we have some concrete work that we need to fix. There's an old Fortis telephone pole that sits in the middle of one sidewalk panel, and then the access ramp into the back alley adjacent to the Didsbury Inn is really quite abrupt. It's got a real solid transition to it, so we're going to remove that concrete. It's also deteriorated and broken, so we're going to fix that apron entrance and then mill the road just like we did on 20th. So that hopefully we'll do the concrete work first, get all that repair patching completed and installed and cured, and then we'll come back and do the asphalt work at the end. But that's 3 weeks we're thinking is sort of the time frame that we have in our heads right now, but it might be 3 to 4 weeks depending on how the weather works. You're welcome.
Thanks for that, Craig. Does that answer your question? Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor?
Actually, just 3 really quick comments. First of all, thank you for the shortened version. And it was nice to see that our Zamboni arrived. We bought that at the right time. There was a great incentive for us to save a lot of money on that item. I think our minor sports that use the arena are going to really appreciate that. And the third thing, I see that we're getting permitting for secondary suites, and I find that exciting because it's been difficult to find rental properties in town, and some of our residents are being creative and opening up their space and trying to help people out, and doing it by properly permitting it, so we know they're safe. So that was all I had in the CAO report.
Anything else? Comments or questions? I have a question for our EDO tonight. You said there was a commercial filmed in Didsbury. What, can you tell us what that commercial was? Or what it was about? Or,
Unfortunately, we did not receive, unless Nicole received some information on that more than we did in communications. There's no further information, just that there was a commercial filming. So it's apparently, we don't know the company, but it is for motorbikes.
it's about motorbikes.
Oh, I saw
Okay.
that. On the picture.
So, well, that's good to know.
I didn't know that's what it was, I thought they were just
But we didn't.
motorcycles in town. But
Yeah, I certainly think that that would be, I like information like that, and I think in our community, it's nice to know what is happening, so I don't know who can, should we write a letter or something to somebody? So we have to write a letter that we, you know, it's one of those things where the more council knows, the more we can spread the word, and maybe there's something we can do in our policy that helps our community understand better what it's being used for by the film industry. Because I know that certainly the film industry itself is doing a great job of keeping us informed. So now that we're entertaining commercials, maybe we want a little more than that. 28 new businesses, sorry, yeah, a little recess there, sidebar, but 28 new businesses, Alexa. Can you just speak a little bit about that? To that, what's, you know, that's great news. And it's 90 more businesses at this time than we had last year.
Thank you for the question and through the chair. The 28 new businesses are all encompassing not just storefronts, but also like home-based businesses, for example, and also comes in as contractors that coming into town and doing some work and took out like an annual license. So that is pretty much the extent of the businesses that are new.
Well, it's good news, like 90 more businesses in 28 that you can report in a certain period, so thank you.
Yeah.
And while you're there, I think
Thank
this is
you.
you too. Housing needs, page 78. I had a question about housing on there. I'm just looking, I didn't write what bullet it was. Oh, conversation with developers about housing needs, options, and concepts, and I think again that's interesting too. And you know, we talked a little bit about that. Well, we met about the Alberta Municipalities thing, but you know, bringing those creative ideas and involving the developers in these conversations about what Didsbury needs. So, anything you can expand on that?
Well, in general, they're asking what the town actually needs, what type of housing they are looking at. And it was specifically also related to the two properties the town had for sale. And they were asking what a council and mayor would look at and what they would accept. And we expressed to the developers that we want to see something unique. We want to see something that is catering to our workforce and is a good fit for our community. And so there were various concepts were thrown around, including tiny homes or comprehensive housing versus affordable housing, or also something that includes our industry, such as, for example, filming. So in what is supported by CMHC, and I had a lot of information on the CMHC as well. So I provided this information to the developers so that they can make a decision on what they are going to present or if they consider developing in Didsbury.
Thanks for that. Councillor Moore, and I want to apologize to Ethan. I just had Alexa move right there and I didn't even go through you, so I apologize. I'll just put this
Through the chair to whoever, I think CAO, Economic Development, and planners, when we did our land use bylaw, we made a point of saying that we were open to innovative housing. And I'm wondering if there's anything that we can do to further that, because it does look like the questions are still being asked. And so the fact that we want to be open to tiny home subdivision, that our restrictive covenants that we have on our R1 that don't allow for suite development, even though maybe somebody's aging and having somebody in the basement would really be helpful. I'm wondering if we could consider maybe furthering that as that innovative into more practical, concrete actions in either through our land use bylaw or some other way that we could further that.
I think that's a good topic for the October workshop.
Could we have it there then?
Well, I think someone's writing a note there that it would be a good topic, so for a workshop. It's not, we're certainly not opening it tonight as you didn't expect. But thank you for your answer and response, Alexa, and for your indulgence, Ethan. And are there any other questions about the CEO report? Okay, so I'll have a motion to accept the CEO report as information. Councillor Moore?
Before I do that, I'm just a little bit concerned about the greenhouse on top of shipping containers in the junkie parking lot. So I'm hoping that when it's the conditions that some of that would be to ensure that that isn't going to get worse.
Well, that was, I think, at this point, that was an MPC decision, so I think that's a whole other conversation maybe that we should have somewhere.
So I'll make the motion then
Okay.
to accept that CAO report with thanks.
Okay. I will call the vote then. All in favor? That's carried. And I just want to apologize briefly to the council too, because I had more to talk to about CAPE, but I won't because I missed an opportunity. I do have a meeting with CAPE on July 20th, so we'll bring back a very robust and thorough report on what the AGM encompassed and what the meeting encompasses, and get council up to speed on what's going on with CAPE. So. All right, we have bylaws and policies. Item 7.1, the bylaw 2023-14, community standards bylaw. And our chairperson, I believe, will speak to that, but there's a bit of a change of information here that you have to flex to, I think.
Thank you, Mayor. On July 5th, the Policy and Governance met to discuss bylaw 2023-14, which is the community standards bylaw. We finalized the fines and offenses schedule and the creation of a permanent application on Schedule B, which is attached to the agenda. The committee is asking for us to send it to approve second reading and refer back to the PTC committee for final review recommendation. We would just like to do some more cross analysis with other towns regarding the fines and offenses. And that being said, I'd like to move that Council grant second reading to bylaw 2023-14 community standards and refer back to the Policy and Governance Committee for review and recommendation.
Okay, any questions or comments? Councillor Moore?
I guess I'm concerned about how restrictive this actually could be, because of it. For one thing, it's very convoluted in all of the definitions, first of all, where words that I don't think there's any question about what they mean are defined at great length. And then when it goes to noise control, like something like 22.1, no person shall make or cause to be made or continue any noise which would disturb or annoy a reasonable person. So I'm a reasonable person, I think, but sometimes there's noises that I allow and will continue to allow that do disturb me, but I think the opportunity for this to be really kind of create more conflict. I would like to see something that is more simple and the opportunities for somebody to challenge any of these things. I think just there's so many of them, and there's so many of the things that I might be concerned, or any false alarm equipment. 13.2 looks like it might be too much. 22 concerns me. It's just, I hope that when it comes back again, I don't see a lot of changes now, but I hope when it comes back again that it will be something that goes along with our principled approach to regulation. Principles rather than nitpicky, just this and that can be interpreted in, I don't want us to be so restrictive that everybody has opportunity to maybe make a real pain for everybody else around them. I'm hoping that there's a sort of a middle ground between this and not having good enough regulations.
I'd just like to suggest that maybe, I don't know if you compared with the original community standards bylaw, so there's not changes.
We don't have that here.
Hmm?
We don't have that.
Yeah, but I would just suggest to anybody that's got concerns, maybe compare what the new changes are. And maybe we should have that in the document, which we usually do. Can Luana answer that?
That document was in the previous agenda package.
Mm-hmm.
So
with
then,
the changes.
With those changes, and then this document just had the changes that once everything went first reading, that additional changes that were made.
Yeah. I think a lot of, when we discuss this at the table, if I might, Chairperson, we have reasonable CPOs as well and bylaw officers, so I don't think we ever encourage them to be nitpicky. I think they're very broad-minded and fair. But having said that, your comments are noted, I believe, by everyone. And I do want to just mention that especially to our administrative team on that, if I'll find this just a minute, that the city of Moose Jaw just passed a bylaw to allow e-scooters.
Okay.
So, look, that's in the municipal world daily today. There's a lot of people that don't know e-scooters are illegal, but the city of Moose Jaw just passed that, and I see Calgary and Edmonton have a resolution on the table to broaden up the Alberta's, thanks to our administrative team's research, to broaden Alberta's options. So there's a lot of research being done, which I hope helps everybody understand we have the same questions. And we have second reading on the table, unless there's other questions. We'll call the vote then on second reading. All in favor? That's carried. Opposed? That's carried. We have business arising at the public hearing. Removal of the municipal reserve. Councillor Moore?
I move that council approve the removal of a portion of municipal reserve MR designation within Plan 0912831, Block 15, Lot 35 MR.
All right, any questions or comments at this point? Call the vote then. All in favor? That's carried. We have number 9, business arising out of delegations 9.1.1, RSMP multi-year financial plan. Anyone? Councillor McCoy?
I'll move to accept the Didsbury Municipal Detachment Multi-Year Financial Plan for April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2029 in principle. And service level changes require approval from council prior to the implementation.
Questions or comments? Okay, call the vote, all in favor? That's carried. That surprised me. We have item 9.2, awarding the safety codes contract. Tracy's sitting at the speaker's desk, Ethan. Should we, I'll let Tracy speak to this initially before we have a motion. Are you going to make a motion after? Okay. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. So I'll just give you a brief background. The current contract that we have for our safety code services has expired. So we have initiated the request for proposal to seek a new contract. So we did receive 3 responses to the request for proposal, and they were all reviewed. And as included in this report, the request for proposal had evaluation criteria that each one was evaluated upon. And then in the report, I also have just a brief outline or comparison. So the 3 groups that we did receive information from is the Inspection Group Inc., IJD Inspections, and Superior Safety Codes. So briefly, the first one I mentioned, Inspections Group Inc., have 2 locations. They currently have a location in Edmonton and one in Cold Lake, and they had indicated in their RFP that they're planning on having a 3rd location to be in Okotoks. And the other thing I've included in this for information, just to give you background, is the percent of the safety codes fees that are collected by the contractor. They retain 70% and 30% come to the town, and that's through the Inspection Group Inc. They provided us with 2 references, and they can provide all services. Part of the request for proposal was we were looking for one contractor who could provide us with all the services for these, excluding the fire, because fire is separate from these services. So on to IJD Inspections. They are based in Red Deer. Their permit fee retention is 60%, and the town's would be 40%. They provided us with several of references, and they can also provide all of the requested services. And our 3rd was Superior Safety Codes. Their locations are Edmonton, Calgary, Lethbridge, Lloydminster, and Red Deer. Their retention is 70% and 30% for the town. They provided us with 2 references, and they can provide us with all those requested services, and also indicated that they would provide services out of the Calgary office. So further to that, then a bit more of a breakdown. So the next table just indicates the score that was provided for each of the different proponents that have submitted their information. So the Inspections Group was provided a score of 91%. As I've indicated here, they did provide us with a very detailed proposal. They've indicated availability would be through a toll-free cell phone service. So each one of their safety codes officers has a cell phone, and it's a toll-free service, and that's how they would be indicated as being available. They did provide that they have appropriate levels of expertise to fulfill all of the requirements of the town. Next is the IJD Inspections Limited, providing a score of 98%. Their proposal was very detailed, easy to read, and easy to understand. They've indicated they will be in town 1 day a week to provide those safety code services. They have 7 safety codes officers and 5 permit issuers that would work on our permits. Superior Safety Codes were provided a score of 95% based on the criteria for the review. They did provide a very detailed, easy to read and easy to understand proposal. They provided that they could be in town 1 to 2 days a week to provide our safety code services. And they've indicated they have 28 safety codes officers, 9 of them in the Calgary office, and as they've indicated, they propose that that's where our safety code services would be serviced from. So this is just a review, and I have provided a recommendation on who could be awarded this proposal. So if there's any further questions, I'm certainly available.
Thanks, Tracy. Councilor McCoy?
Through the chair.
So what kind of an impact would this have on our budget?
The number that was provided when the RFP went out was based on the current budget, so those are the numbers that would be utilized moving forward.
Councilor Moore?
I move that council award the Safety Code Services contract to IJD Inspections Limited.
Thank you for that. Any more questions for our administrative team? Call the vote then. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Teresa. We have item 9.3, reserve bids for tax sale properties.
Do you want the motion?
Sure.
I move that council set the reserve bids for the 2023 tax sale properties as follows. Roll number 582000 at $272,310. Roll 106200 at $123,450, and that the terms and the conditions of the sale be payment by cash or certified check. A 5% non-refundable deposit shall be received by the town on the date of the auction, and the balance of the funds is to be received by the town within 15 days after the auction.
All right, any questions, comments? Call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Item 9.4, 23rd Street Enhanced Intersection Project. Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm just wondering. Go ahead. I just thought we might have a conversation about it before we have the motion, but go ahead.
I was going to debate the motion then.
That's fine. Yep.
I move to amend the 2022 capital budget to increase the Highway 582 and 23rd Street intersection project by $111,000 for a total of $1,611,000, with the additional amount to be funded from the CCPF grant.
Comments, questions? Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I've got questions all over the place here. I'd like to know, I guess, Mayor Hunter, where this project, the 23rd, is on our multi-year capital plan. Because there are a number of other items on the capital plan that would use the $411,000. And even if it isn't for this year, somehow we have to fund those in the future. And so I would like to know what the deal is with the capital plan, and it's not on the capital plan. Why aren't we following our capital plan? The other side of it is that in the motion we talk about 1.6 million. I think the total project now is 900,000 with 900,000 with 411,000. That doesn't add up to 1611. So I'm not sure where that number comes from, and I'd like your clarification on that.
Okay, Ethan, we have two questions in one comment, within one conversation. So, multi-year capital plans being referenced and the funding amount total.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. The first one really is just a political question. It's something that's emerged as a result of extra money that's approved for this project, and we're simply bringing it as an option for council to consider as we feel is something that's worthy of consideration. But it really is a political decision whether or not council feels this is something worth participating in or keeping the money for the previous planned multi-year projects, as Councilor Windsor has alluded to. But this was just something that we thought, because the project's coming way under budget, and we thought, well, these are some other items you could do while we're at it, because there's cost efficiencies that are part of it as a result of mobilization and materials and supplies. And I don't know if Craig wants to add anything to that description. It's all there in the RFP, but really this is just simply an option for council to consider.
Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Was there, you had a second one?
Yes,
like where's
clarification
the
on the one?
Clarification on the 161. Like the project was 1.5, right? And
there's now 900,000. There's no 1.5
yes.
anymore.
Can, point of order, enhance, will be addressed. Okay, we're finishing the question that was asked, and then I'll go to the side. I see everybody's hand up. Does someone want to answer that, Ethan?
Sure will.
Thank you for question number 2. So through the chair, so the 1.6 comes from the total of the 750 from the province, 750 that we had put in for our portion, which is the 1.5 for the intersection. This is an amendment to take the remaining. So for the intersection is about $900,000 worth of work right now. We have 1.5 available. The province isn't willing to kick in any more money to anything else, so their additional approved funding not used isn't available to us, but we do have $300,000 remaining of our approved money from the 2022 project. So the 750, if we're only spending, I just want to check the numbers, I don't want to say them wrong. But yeah, so we'll be spending about 450 on our part. So that gives us a little bit of money left over from the approved money for the intersection. And that's what I was looking at, is if the project that was awarded and approved was $450,000, and we have 300 on the table left, is there something that we could do with it? And that's why the project sort of came to. I tried to work with the province to see if we could maybe do a second intersection, some other stuff, work with the province to maximize the approved funding that we had. But this is sort of where we settled. The province said, no, this is our part. We're good with this for now. So that's why the 1.6 comes. It's not all going to get spent.
I'm going to go to Councilor Baswick, and Councilor McCoy, and that Mayor. And then, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter.
You had to begin with,
So the question I have is, we had budgeted for this particular project, right? And what is an enhanced project? What are we enhancing in this project beyond what we originally set up to do? In other words, we made the project with the swing-offs, turn-offs, whatever you call them, and that was budgeted for, and now the term enhanced project estimation. What is enhancing the project that makes it worth more money?
The RFD, so the RFD explains the enhanced project. So is there anything particular on the RFD that you want to highlight it on that? Because it's all there. So is there any specific part of the enhancement that isn't clear?
I just need an explanation of the term enhanced project. You're enhancing an existing project.
Okay, so.
What are the enhancements?
Okay, so Craig, I know that is in the RFD, what your project is, so can you just explain what the project is?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. So the term enhancement is sort of a catchphrase if we're looking to expand the scope of work. So really what I'm looking to get your input on and guidance about is whether or not we're interested in widening the cross section of the road by a meter on either side. So if you were to draw the center line down the road, we're going to go a meter wider, build the ditch up just like we're doing for the turning lanes. So we bench it up, and then we put the subgrades down, and we put new asphalt 1 meter wider, so we get a 2 meter wider road. And then also part of this contemplation is to then mill it and repave the surface so that we'd have a surface similar to what 20th Street is, all the way out to the spur line. So we'll sort of build, the reason why we looked at an enhanced project here is because it builds on the current investment, and it's just an option. But
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that very much. That explains it all. So you're telling me that the 411 is, through the chair, is going to cover this enhancement cost, correct?
that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. I like the meter wide idea. Thank you, ma'am.
Councilor McCoy?
Just that if you look at that on our page 102, If you add municipal contribution to total lines, it comes to the $1.611 million.
Do you have a question?
And then I'm going to call the end of debate.
We have a motion to end debate. Call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. So we have a motion to approve sidewalks.
It's widening.
Excuse me, everybody. I'm reading to amend the capital budget to increase Highway 582 and 23rd Street intersection project by 111 for a total of 1.6 with the additional amount to be funded from the CCBF grant. This is the motion. I will call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, Alberta Community Partnership Grant, item 9.5. We have anyone like to do the motion? Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'll move that council approve and support the Mountain View County in their application for the Alberta Community Partnership ACP grant for the Regional Emergency Social Services Plan.
Okay, any questions or comments? Call the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
And Mayor Hunter, I'll move to approve Mountain View County as the managing partner for the ACP grant.
Any questions or comments? Call the vote. All in favor? That's carried.
And Mayor Hunter, I'll move that council support the town of Didsbury emergency management and community services staff to complete the Regional Emergency Social Services Plan grant. I'm adding the word grant.
Okay, any comments or questions? Go ahead.
Oh, it's okay.
Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. The reason that I'm doing that is that in the documentation, that's what was required. That was part of the thing that was required, is that it was staff support for the grant application. It wasn't just for the project, because if the grant isn't successful in its application, then we have to talk about whether or not we're going to fund this thing. So it has to be for the grant application.
Councillor McCoy?
Just a question. The first one kind of covers that, doesn't it? No?
Is there a question, like as far as the motion?
Yeah, I would say that if you're going to add that, could you, from the amendment, maybe put the grant part in front of it, not at the end? Because it's an ASB grant for the emergency process. No?
Can I respond?
It's your motion.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. On page 106 of your agenda, you'll see that the requirements for this, they require, before we can move ahead with applying for this grant, is under the required point 3, talks about this very thing. Staff from the member municipalities to complete the ESS grant. It's not to complete the plan, it's to complete the grant application. And so that's why I'm making that reference.
Okay, we have a motion. I will call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks for that. We have item 9.6, tornado relief. Councillor Bowser?
Thank you, Mary, for the motion. I move to approve the use of the remaining $850 from the Community Grant Program in support of local businesses that have participated in the tornado relief efforts, with an accompanying letter of thanks from Mayor Hunter on behalf of council.
I'm sure I'm just confused, but for clarification, somehow I thought we spent that already. About a couple of meetings ago or something. Did we spend the last of it or not?
No, we haven't. It's still available. Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I have two things that I don't like about this. First of all, I'm going to say that if we had this discussion here a couple of months ago with regard to stars, and if the community, business, or individuals want to make contributions or donations to a cause, then they're most welcome to do that. And it shouldn't be the responsibility or the place for the municipality to reimbursement them for that contribution that they chose to make. The other side of it is that I don't really think this can be funded from the community grant program because it doesn't meet the criteria. Thank you, Mayor Hunter.
Thanks for that. Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. I think this $850 would be better used if we throw it towards tornado relief cleanup and helping the affected families clean up the area. That's just my thought.
Yes, I would like to support relief for the tornado, absolutely. However, I agree with Councilor Windsor. It doesn't meet the criteria of that particular fund, so we have to find it somewhere else if we're going to do it.
Councilor McCoy?
I support Councilor Windsor's take on it. I agree.
I'd just like to say that when we do donate, the STARS is one of those things too, and this is all, you know, there's many of our residents and citizens and volunteering and helping and donating, and the donation we could do, as Ethan mentioned today, to the silent auction, a year's swimming pool pass. We could have some swag that's worthy of silent auction bidding that we could put in there. And we always tend to count on we do our part with what we can do with our facilities or with our silent auction on swag and stuff to donate that way. And then we all individually donate, which this council's been very clear on over the years when we get requests for things. But I support like a silent auction or ways for them to raise money and then everybody do their part. As a council member, the town itself has lots to offer, and those silent auction items are very biddable, I guess is the point. Councillor, you started and then you go again. Did you speak yet? Okay, you go ahead. And then Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I just wanted to concur with my colleague, Councillor Windsor, and I really like the idea that Councillor Williams put forward of supporting directly to the survivors of this terrible thing.
Go ahead, Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm fully in support of doing something to express our sincere horror over what's occurred here and the people that are involved. I think that there probably has to be either a retraction of the motion or a change of the motion or something in order to facilitate that. Again, we have to be careful about how we use that community's grant program, that whatever we do, however we do it, if it's going to come out of there, it has to meet the criteria, and I just can't see how this does. So I would be in favor of doing something in a silent auction. I think that would be a really good thing. I think that would be an appropriate motion with swag, and passes at the pool. I don't know, maybe a reduction of something else that we offer that might make it happen. Now, the auction is in the middle of summer and it's during our break, so probably we would need to formulate some kind of direction for administration to move forward with doing something on our behalf, or for you to do that, Mayor, on our behalf, because we're going to be on a break and somebody has to move forward with this and make a decision.
Okay, you have a motion there. Did somebody ask for a revisit of that? Do you want to, is there any amendment you'd like, or would you like the motion on the 850 based on the conversation?
I like the idea that Council Winter brought forward of the silent auction, and I guess that's yours, so I didn't make the motion, that was, Council Bassett made the motion.
My apologies, Councilor Bassett. So,
I think I'd like to withdraw the motion then, because this isn't the direction by consensus that we really want to do it, so I'll withdraw that motion.
and we want a different motion then? Is there anything else that we can offer that way too? I mean, we have, swag is nice, and it's always, we're looking at getting something very biddable that, not bracelets and lanyards. Or frisbees, but, and Nicole has some options, some thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. So I was just saying to Ethan that I wonder a way that council might consider it would be to set an amount that, of value. And I was saying we could build a couple of different options. We could do an annual swimming pass, but we could do maybe another silent auction donation with a couple sets of swimming lessons that would be great for families, or an ice rental. So that we have things that are of value that aren't necessarily writing a check, but that could definitely be used to help fundraise for this very worthwhile cause.
Yeah, with that, I mean, I'd suggest like $2,000 on any product that isn't, it's not hard to get to $2,000, I'm thinking, is it? And if anybody has a better offer, then by all means throw it out. Councilor McCoy?
I'd like to make the motion. To approve administration to find gifts in kind to the value of $2,000 for the tornado relief efforts for their silent auction.
Nicole, if I might just add to that too, a free rental in NPR is always really valuable too, because that's a big one. It isn't always swimming or skating, but the NPR is very sought after by groups to do things, so if that might be a consideration. And is there any other thoughts while we're with this? Nicole can think of things, but maybe we have some suggestions, Councilor Moore, and then Councilor Windsor, and then I'll let Nicole go after that.
It sounds like it's swag and rentals and things like that. I would like to make it just a little bit more flexible for administration to be able to suit whatever it is up to the value of the $2,000 that would best work with it, rather than us determining what that's going to be. So I'd like it to be a little more general and in the direction of the silent auction, or another activity that would benefit the victims of the tornado. So I just would like to see it a little more general, that's all.
So what part wasn't general, it was in kind, which leaves a pretty broad scope. Councilor Windsor had a question, and then Nicole. Nicole was going to speak, and then Deputy Mayor.
Well, thank you. Just one other idea I had was something that is important to a lot of families in our community is our DOSCA program, our summer fun program. So even offering a week of summer fun, or so just some other ideas for it.
Thank you for that.
Does our pool still do the birthday, where they can rent a part of the pool for a birthday party for kids? That might be something where that is facilitated the pool party for a birthday party or something for children.
Okay, so I think you have a lot of ideas. I don't, maybe just that we said in kind, but I think swag might be part of that, and maybe just to note it, if you take that friendly amendment in kind items and swag. Did you get, Councilor McCoy accepted that, so. Anything else that administration would like to add? I see you're all chatty over there. I always like to know what you're talking about. Not this time? Okay, that's fine. All right. Can we have the motion read back?
Yes. Moved by Councillor McCoy to approve administration to provide gifts in kind and/or swag items to a value of $2,000 in support of the tornado relief efforts. Sign
Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. The reason that I think it's important to have the silent auction in there is that that's the only official fundraiser that's actually happening for this. There's all kinds of other fundraisers going on and all kinds of things that nobody really knows whether this is actually affiliated or not. But that's the only official one, and so that's why I think it's important that we identify that.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Councilor Baswick?
Just a quick one. With all due respect, I think some of the swag is promotional items like frisbees and cups and that type of thing, and they're fine. But I think something maybe more substantial, I don't know, buy a barbecue or something like that, that someone will actually bid on. Not that the other ideas aren't good, it's just more something you can put your hands on, I guess is what I'm thinking would be interesting. Just as an option, whether the administration decides to do that or not, that's fine, through the chair.
We don't have any barbecues that have the town history logo on them. But that could happen.
I understand, well.
But I agree more substantial. I just talked to Nicole about that before, because there's other things that are coming up that, lanyards and frisbees aren't always it. So I think the gist is there. If that's fair, that all those ideas that have been circulated, including that anything that's town and district logoed or identified, we're after that.
Is it possible to give administration the latitude to make open choices as well? Not confine them to specific items?
Yeah, I think that's just what we were talking about.
Right. Why do we have that latitude? I'm talking about.
Do you need to identify funding?
I don't know what you mean.
I'm wondering, Mayor Hunter, most motions that we do of this nature, we say where the funding is coming from to cover this. Do we need to do that in this motion as well?
No. I don't think, swag is already purchased already, and it will be purchased. We have budgets for that. And then as far as giving away swim passes, do we want to get that complex?
No.
Yeah, I don't think we do, personally, but did you have something to say, Deputy Mayor? I thought I saw a hand, but with that then, we will call the vote on the motion that Luana just read back to us to have administration put together $2,000 worth of silent auction items that will garner big financial success for the silent auction. So we'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. We have item 9.7, Didsbury Economic Development Strategy 2022 to 2025. Everybody was asked to forward information to Alexa. Do you just want to speak to it a little bit? Alexa, do you want to make the motion while Alexa, is that all right? If Alexa moves over to the presenters table and you have a motion to make, is that what you were going to do? Go ahead.
I move the council approve the economic development strategy and principle as presented.
All right, do you have, in 2 minutes or less, anything to add? I'm not timing yet. anything to add about this? It's great strategies.
I'm just asking, through the chair, to approve it in principle. The content of it, it's a general guiding document. Before we publish the economic development strategy, we will actually enhance this document with infographics and more information on Didsbury. So it will also be enhanced with images and such. So at this point in time, this is why we're asking that it's just been approved in principle. Council had an opportunity to provide more feedback, and I received some feedback. It was integrated in that and changed. And out of following the economic development strategy, we're going to discuss the project plan and other strategies and plans that will formulated out of this guiding document.
Thanks for that. Councilor Moore?
I realized we had an opportunity to provide more input. When I'm reading it over again, I see on page 131 of our agenda that it says we have a lack of winter activities. And I realize that some places may have mountains or something and have more. But we have curling and hockey and skating and figure skating and tobogganing and snowshoeing. I don't think we have a lack of winter activities. And then we have the indoor ones, like our pool is open in the winter, and pickleball and volleyball and at our schools and at the church. And so it bothers me a little bit to see that we have a lack of winter activities. We might want more, but I don't think we have a lack.
And I, through the chair, I agree that what you're saying, we have all of those activities, and this what analysis came actually through also from the community, that there should be more activities in terms of programming and such, I assume, but this came out back from the survey from the communities. This was extracted out of that, and it's been said it's a weakness of sort, but that again states an opportunity. However, if you strongly feel about this, we can really amend it and say, well, I'd like this to be removed because it's not true, or and say we agree in principle or approve it in principle with that change, if that is acceptable to council.
I'm thinking that the intent of that statement is more to integrate, like to create more groups, like so that you would have a cross-country ski group, and they would have a place where they would go cross-country skiing, and and that would be sort of a town, facility, not a building, but you know what I mean. And the same with snowshoeing and with the tobogganing and stuff, like it's there, but maybe there's other things we can do there as a community to increase outdoor free recreation, winter activities. So I kind of agree that there's more we can do for sure.
So I think what we want to hear on that right now is, do we agree with that change? Not how we're going to change it, but I think.
I didn't ask it.
Well, I guess, you brought it up, so I guess the comment is, if there was a reason to bring it up, would you like it to be considered? And then in which case, then I would go around the table and say it should be considered, and if you don't, then we'll leave it at that.
I'm not asking that it be removed, but I think that it's not true. So I would like it modified, is what I would like. Okay, how about limited winter activities? Because what it's saying there is we don't have any, and that's not true.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's your comment. If you wanted to consider it, you would have to have majority agreement to that. So would you like it? You said adjust it to limited winter activities.
Yeah, or limited outdoor winter activities, whichever council likes. I think that would be true, whereas I don't think that is now. And I think it's a negative thing against our community.
I don't want to get into a debate about what is good and isn't good, about what we think about the winter activities are. What I want everybody to consider, limited. That's all I want an answer on as we go around. But Alexa has something to say first, and then we'll have everybody's take on that limited word.
So alternatively, we could move this from the weakness or negative statement into opportunities. And instead of saying lack of winter activities, move it into opportunities, that there is opportunity for more winter activities.
I like
I like
And then we'll go around the table since it's...
I concur with the suggestion that Alexa just made.
I'm fine with either.
I'm good with either.
I like it as an opportunity myself.
I don't agree with the statement. I think we have as much winter activity out here
You want to
as
put it onto opportunities.
anyone else.
Limited.
Yeah, I'm just taking a second to speak.
But that's what we were trying to debate is our opinions on. Do we want it as a limited winter or opportunities? And that's all right now. We take the opportunities, moving it to there. And if not, then we start a new conversation.
I would like to see it in a positive statement.
And opportunities?
An opportunity.
Councilor McCoy?
Opportunities is a good idea.
Councilor Beswick?
Opportunity.
Okay. So that change is noted, that we will see we'll have way more opportunities for winter activities on top of the other. Something like that. And then at that point, we have a motion to accept it in principle. It is a working document, so a live document. Any other comments at this point? Okay, I will call the vote on strategy being accepted as presented in principle. We'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Alexa.
Thank you.
And we have item 9.8, the council schedule meeting adjustment, readjustment, back to normal. I think. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the restoring the first regular council meeting in September to Tuesday, September 12th, 2023.
Nicole's smiling because that was her birthday on September 11th. So. Any comments or questions?
Thank you.
I'll call the vote then. All in favor? That's carried. We have Mountain View Seniors Housing Annual Golf Tournament. Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'll move that council approve a donation to the Mountain View Seniors Housing 13th Annual Golf Classic as a silver sponsor in the amount of $1,500 to be funded from the council budget.
Okay. Any comments or questions? I was reminded by the chairperson of Mountain View Seniors Housing that we can also purchase our own $150 participation in the event, so the town has two, and if anybody else wants to participate, they're certainly welcome to by paying their fee, maybe as a board member or as an alternate, and I know they're looking for volunteers too. So I'll call the vote on the silver sponsorship. All in favor? That's carried. And we have item 10, Mountain View Adult Learning Society Community Grant as correspondence, so a motion on correspondence. Councilor Windsor?
Mayor Hunter, maybe we have to do something, I think we have to address this letter, so do we accept it as information and then do something about it, or do we sort of do something about it?
What would you like to do about it?
Well, I'm not sure.
This goes back into the fund?
Yes, yeah, because that then puts, that's at $2,800 in the community grant program, and whether or not we have administration bring forward maybe some of the other applicants that made the application, or
Can I suggest that we have quite a bit of time. We have 8 months until the next intake of applications, so why not just leave it and see if people come forward and ask, and put it back into that fund. If you want to make the motion that the money, I mean, the money will return to the fund, I don't know if we need, do we need that for
Never
me?
left.
Yeah, never left.
Never left.
Yeah.
But maybe we should acknowledge it in the motion, that kind of statement. I agree that,
To Pat,
yeah, but just that we appreciate, that they've wrote the letter and that it will remain in the grant for future opportunities for our community, something like that. Is that fair?
Yes, so Mayor Hunter, I'll move that council accept the correspondence items as presented and acknowledge that the funds that were allocated to the Mountain View Seniors Housing, the MVC Adult Learning Society is being returned to the community grant program for future consideration.
I'll read that back.
Moved by Councillor Windsor to accept the correspondence items presented as information and acknowledge the funds allocated to Mountain View Adult Learning be returned to the community grant program for future consideration.
Is that it? Call the vote, all in favor? It's carried. Yes,
I would like to make a second motion about this, that,
that wasn't discussed.
can I make it and then you can decide if it's wrong?
Well, we made the motion that was on the table, there was no discussion about a second motion coming out of that. So,
We make a motion anytime, or anything. Okay.
no. If the discussion happens during the conversation, that's fair, because we know what we're going to be voting on, and we've already had a discussion about it. So, the motion's been made to put that money back and acknowledge that. So there was no other discussion had about that money being for anything, so.
It's a timeliness request. If I could just say it.
I'm not going to accept another motion on it, just because I don't want to. The information wasn't discussed. At some point, our meetings follow the process of discussion, and we acknowledge to each other that we are going to bring a second motion out, and I think that's fair. I'm going to leave it at that then. And if there's anything that needs to come of that in the future, then we put that in our procedure bylaw perhaps. But that's something we'll make right now. So I'm looking for my agenda page, but I'll just go back to my ordinary one. So we have council meeting highlights, and I'll start. I don't know who haven't started this yet. I don't know, Councilor Moore looks pretty excited. Should we let her? Go ahead. Go ahead, Councilor Moore.
Just because I'm excited. I am excited because the 20th Street looks so good, that 19th Avenue and the widening of 23rd Street. Really excited to see that. That's what our community wants.
That's two.
Oh, that's what our roads are, what our community wants, and we're giving it to them.
So what is your one? Say that again.
I'll do 19th Avenue, I guess.
19th.
Enhancement that we're going to be doing on that.
For the future?
Yes, the new projects that are going to be funded and completed now.
23rd Street.
No, she's talking about Sierra.
Okay, Councilor Moore, to clarify what she's talking about, she's right here. So that would be fair,
We're trying to help.
Okay.
I think.
People seem
Let's let her do
confused
that.
about 19th, so I'm going to choose 23rd then. The widening at 23rd.
Okay, there, touche, eh? People speaking for you when you're right there. Councilor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm going to choose the tornado relief that we selected.
Thank you. And I will go with 19th Ave. Since Councilmore took my original one, I'll go with 19th Ave.
It's not even done yet, so you don't even know it's gonna be.
But I'm
exciting.
happy that we're enhancing that, so I can't wait to see the finished project.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
Item 9.7, the Didsbury Economic Development Strategy was approved in principle.
Okay, Councilman McCoy?
I'm gonna say the tornado relief.
Somebody said that already.
Oh, did they? Okay. I'm gonna say it's nice that we passed the partial removal of municipal reserve. Moving forward.
Well, all that's left for me is, I appreciate the changing of the council meeting schedule.
To accommodate Nicole's birthday. We had a cake planned and everything, so I guess she doesn't get it now.
I never been to
Right. You know, I'm always thankful for the reports from our CMP detachment and the communication with our CMP detachment and the staff sergeant's relationship and all those detachment members' relationship with our community and the fact that they are catching the bad guys. So I'm going to take the RCMP report as the highlight. Quarterly report even. Good stuff. Okay. With that, we will have any questions from the gallery that would like to come forward regarding the agenda that was presented tonight. No? So we're going to get you up there one day. Okay, so that, seeing no one move towards the presenters table, I will have a motion to adjourn for closed meeting at 8:12.
I can do that.
Go ahead, Councillor Bowser.
Move to adjournment, please, and go to closed session.
Not adjourned, just go to closed session.
What do you?
I'll call the vote, all in favor?
Ready? Okay, Councilor Moore, item 1.
I move that council extend the deadline for the renaming of the outline plan to September 1st.
Right? All in favor? That's carried. Item 13.2, land opportunities on the old high school land.
Okay, so, how much detail are we gonna put in? Is everything?
To
motions.
approve the negotiation on the old high school land as discussed.
As discussed, okay.
Okay, Councilor Windsor. All in favor? It's carried. The 5-0 building opportunity. Councilor Williams, you can make a motion.
Can I have the motion, please?
Yes. To approve, to accept the I think it would be, to accept in principle the proposal for the old 5-0 building as discussed, because then obviously
To accept the proposal in principle of the 5-0 club as discussed.
Thank you. Call vote, all in favor? It's carried. Item 15.3, Alberta's always advocacy.
I move that council direct the mayor to continue to advocate for improved board representation.
Call the vote, all in favor? It's carried. 13.4, Ethan. We need to accept the dog control agreement update as information.
maybe to accept the ICF negotiation update as information.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Call the vote, all in favor? And that covers both items.
Yeah. Who did that one?
Councilor Croy? Councilor Baswick? Item 5, you just want to repeat that motion? Councilor Baswick? On
Yep.
the facilities?
That is that the proposals for the facilities be brought back as discussed.
And then we need the second one, right?
Need to talk about
Yeah. Councilor Baswick is going to do the facility proposals coming back. All in favor? It's carried. Councilor Moore?
I move that council approve in principle the plaza concept for the brownfield and that administration go forward as discussed.
And bring back.
Bring back the concept plan. I will add that.
Okay. All vote, all in favor? Carried. And,
RCMP recognition.
yeah,
That council approve the RCP recognition, the date of which to be determined. I guess as discussed should be in there somewhere.
Yeah.
As discussed.
I'll cover all that.
Okay.
all the vote, all in favor? It's carried. And then who's in red?
I move to, in preparation for the organizational meeting in October, council will assign this be referred to the visioning committee for review and recommendation.
All the vote, all in favor? That's carried. And a motion to adjourn